Hello there, and welcome to Me Moby's Galaxy. I am your host, Me Moby. Welcome, and thank you for joining. We have a very interesting podcast to talk about today. But starters, if you're new here, welcome. This is a podcast for everyone that likes Star Wars. So if you like just the original trilogy, this is for you. If you're only just the young Jedi adventures type of person, this is also for you. I am joined today to talk about Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, with a good friend of mine, Austin. How are we doing today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on. I'm glad I could make it.
Okay, so before I introduce you and ask you a couple questions, I'm going to force you to do some Star Wars Episode 3 trivia to prove your salt. So is this actually your favorite movie in Star Wars?
In Star Wars, this is hard. I'll answer honestly. So as a standalone movie, I think Rogue One is my favorite because, like, especially in today, obviously Rogue One is a lot newer than Episode 3. Rogue One just does it all really well. But Episode 3 within the story and the world of Star Wars is probably my favorite just because Anakin and Darth Vader is like my favorite story. Obviously, I mean, it's the main story, but like, it just really, Episode 3 really hits on Anakin's story and it's so good. So I would say Rogue One on standalone, Episode 3 in the whole story.
Cool. Well, let's see if you actually know it.
Yeah.
I have 5 questions for you.
Okay.
They vary from easy to, they vary from not easy to hard.
Awesome.
Okay,
Don't judge me, guys.
What year did it release?
It's got to be about 2000 and I want to say 2008. Is that way off?
That's pretty far off. It's 2005, May 19th.
No.
You just got to think about it.
Because Episode 1 was 1998.
99.
99, okay.
And George always did every 3 years.
Oh, bummer.
99, 2002, 2005.
Okay, I'm already failing, but it's okay.
Okay.
It's okay.
Who has the opening line? And you watched this yesterday.
No, I know. It's surely, oh my gosh, it's got to be Obi-Wan, right?
It is Anakin, and he says lock onto him, R2.
Okay.
Man, 0 for 2.
Shoot, man.
Well, what is the name of the planet that Obi-Wan faces General Grievous on?
Oh my gosh.
They say it multiple times.
I know.
I can give you a hint if needed.
Give me the first letter.
U.
Dude, the first thing that comes to mind is Unova, which is from Pokemon. Way off. I'm going to say I don't know.
Utapau.
See, I knew
You'll get this one.
I knew that.
You'll get this one. Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah.
After becoming Darth Vader, where does Anakin go to eliminate the Separatist leaders? What's the name of the planet?
I mean, in my head, it's Mustafar, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. I almost doubled.
I don't even want to ask the last one. It's just way too hard.
Messed myself
It's literally
up.
the hardest question I could find.
No, maybe I'll get it.
What's the name of the animal that Obi-Wan rides on Utapau?
Oh, wait.
or his name.
I had this as a toy.
He has a character name.
Yep. And I don't know it at all.
It is Boga.
Boga? What's the name of the animal?
It's called a Varactyl.
A Varactyl? See, I think I knew the Varactyl part because I remember it being dinosaur-like because I had the toy as a kid. I don't remember what make or model of the toy, but it was a version of it. So,
well, perfect.
Well, yeah, 1 for 5.
That's pretty
Let's
good.
Go.
That's pretty solid. How did you do?
Yeah, that's a good question. I want to know how the audience did too.
So,
maybe I wasn't the worst.
You kind of, I think we should just jump into it.
Sure.
Unless you want to give more backstory of you.
Yeah. My name's Austin.
Oh, Austin. Hi, Austin.
Yeah. Hey there, man.
When did you first watch Star Wars?
That's a hard question because I feel like for a lot of the fans that are around our age, which is like, mid 20s to like mid 30s, I feel like you watch it before you can even realize what the story is. So I saw probably episode 4, 5, or 6 when I was like 2 or 3. But I vividly remember owning episode 1 as a VHS and watching that over and over. And if I'm remembering that, it was probably like 4 or 5. So I would say it's always been a part of my life, but the narrative really started impacting me once I got older. But yeah, it's always been there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So with that,
this is where the fun begins.
Yes.
I think we should jump into it. So I think how I want this to go is we're going to just talk about the opening sequence, which
Sure.
is just General Grievous's ship and all that, and then we can jump into, because the middle part of the movie is a lot about just like the storyline and like growing Anakin, Padme, and then Obi-Wan, and then we'll talk about the ending, and then like we can jump around within that. So opening was slightly different than a lot of other Star Wars films, where it starts with an actual war. One thing I know that a lot of people didn't like was in the opening crawl. I mentioned this to you yesterday. They said there's heroes on both sides.
Yeah, and I don't like. Who do you think they're referring to with that?
I don't really. There's like one episode in the Clone Wars they talk about it, but I don't really remember what it was,
because like obviously Dooku is a Sith, and he's not a hero at all, but he's almost in the gray zone between the two out of all of them. And I think that's just because when you really focus on Darth Tyrannus, I think he's just like, he's like, obviously he's a Sith, but he's not as dark as Sidious or as dark as Maul. So maybe they're referring to him. Surely it's not Grievous. Obviously it's not Sidious. So it's like, I don't get that line at all.
I honestly don't know who they're talking about either, because I can't really think about what happened in the Clone Wars. But speaking of the Clone Wars, this show pretty much set everything up for it.
Yeah.
Because there's so many references. They're like, oh, that's what that character's going to be. So let's just start. So the opening fighter scene.
Yes.
The main things I noticed was they set up like Obi-Wan not caring about the clones.
Because I literally have that in my notes. So
because they said, I think it's, I forget his name. Oddball. Is it Oddball? No.
Yeah, no, it's something like that.
He says, oh, I need help. Get him off me. And Anakin's like, I'm gonna get him. And Obi-Wan's like, they're doing their job. Let us so we can do ours.
And that's a whole can of worms. If I can like jump into it,
yeah.
I think that's one of my favorite depictions of how Anakin differs from the Jedi Order. Because like Obi-Wan, we love him. He's amazing, but like, he is like the tried and true Jedi. Like he is a true Jedi master because he upholds almost all or most, if I'm remembering right, of like their beliefs and their standards. Where obviously with Anakin, he struggles with that a bit. So you seeing that struggle right off the bat, I like with Anakin being like, I want to save these people who are helping us. Watching him like have to mentally like fight against that. It's like, that's just another piece of the puzzle, or like the paper slowly tearing away to make him Darth is how I see it.
No, I would agree with that. And I do think, I can't remember in the Clone Wars, I mean, Obi-Wan liked the clones, but Anakin was definitely more on their side of like being friends with them and like calling them by their names. I mean, Obi-Wan did too, but I think it all kind of just sets up. Opening sequence I think was great. I loved it as a kid. I loved it now.
Yes.
It's just a epic scene. I think the intro song where it's just drums, like boom, boom.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. It's a little cheesy because you can totally see past the ship, and then it goes over the ship and you can see whatever.
It's still fun though.
But then the next big point, you know, everything happens. R2, it's doing great. Like you said yesterday, it's like one of the best R2 movies.
Yes,
by far.
Literally,
they give him so much to do.
Yeah,
and especially this intro scene.
Yeah.
So the next thing I noticed, I don't know how I feel about it. When they land and they crash land into the hangar, Obi-Wan does like a big jump, kind of like a showboaty jump, and then Anakin's just like, he's like, chill, let me take off my seatbelt, get out. And I always thought that was really, it feels wrong. It feels opposite of what it's supposed to be.
Yes, which is funny. Yeah, exactly. Because Anakin, especially in like the Clone Wars show, is always so like quick to the trigger, like always jumping the gun. Where Obi-Wan's whole thing is like, slow down, my Padawan. Like, let's focus. So I wonder if that's just something that they didn't even really think about, like in the whole thematic of the character. But yeah, the scene where Anakin unstraps his seatbelt is really funny because it's just like, one, why did George want to show that? Or maybe like, I don't know, maybe they want to show that Anakin was, wearing his seatbelt. But I feel like there's a part in episode 1 where you see both like Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan jump into action at the same point. And it's almost like shows how Obi-Wan and Anakin aren't always on the same pace. Even though how I was just saying like Anakin usually is the one jumping the gun. Obviously here, Obi-Wan's the first to jump out. While we do love the connection between Obi-Wan and Anakin, they're never really on the same beat. They're always kind of like not fully following each other. And I think that's interesting. That's what makes it so good.
I think this movie really sets up like them being like that more brother type situation, because in episode 2 it's just Anakin being dumb and then Obi-Wan just like ridiculing, like kind of like reprimanding him the whole time.
Yep.
This one, it shows more of a bond. It obviously there's that time jump, which I love in like trilogies when there's a time jump. They reference other things that have happened. You know, the whole like I've saved you 10 times, like no, only 9.
Yeah, on
and it's like
Cato Nemoida.
You wrote that down.
I wrote it down because I was like, I didn't ever notice that as a kid.
Yeah,
but now as an adult, I'm like, wait, what happened on Cato Nemoida? Like,
exactly, and that's what's exciting about it because it's like, oh, what could it be? And it gets like your brain going and kind of. Like just thinking about what could have happened. And I think they do a good job with that, like talking like, oh, hey, no loose wire jokes about R2. It's like, what? I didn't say anything. Like, something has happened in the past. I don't know. I feel like they could have set it up better in episode 2 into this, but I'm glad we have it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad it kind of makes sense in the hierarchy of things, like that it just kind of works with that.
Yeah, because you can never spend every single second with a fictional character. That's like eventually maybe the world will get to that point where you can like live a whole life with a fictional character. But it's like, that's the special thing about Star Wars is the audience's imagination plays into it a lot. Especially like the classic one with Obi-Wan in episode 4 talking about the Clone Wars. Like George, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, but George didn't even know what the Clone Wars were at that time. He just threw it in there, right?
Not entirely. He knew that they were going to eventually go back to that. That's what episode 1, 2, and 3 were going to be. But they didn't know. They just knew clones.
Yeah,
and that's about like all they really knew.
And I love the era of Star Wars that I grew up in. But like, imagine seeing that in theaters and being like, what are the Clone Wars? And not figuring out for 20 some years. Like, that's crazy.
But that is what ended up being the problem with it, right? I mean, not to go back, but when episode 1 released, they announced they're going to make episode 1. Everyone had what it was supposed to be. Yeah. And then it wasn't what they wanted because they'd had 20 years to make background stories and fanfics. But I think, I don't know. I think, I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I lost it.
No, you're good.
I was pulling up the stats of how much it made in box office compared to other ones because I thought it was pretty interesting.
Okay.
I just posted this the other day. Revenge of the Sith is the 5th highest grossing one with inflation. So, 1 is The Force Awakens because it was
that makes sense
because you have 2 eras of fans that want to watch the movie.
Totally checks out.
Episode 4, A New Hope.
Wow.
Just beats out The Phantom Menace.
Wow.
And that's because it was like the
all
next
these first episodes of their trilogies. That's kind of crazy
because so many people want it.
Episode 7 totally makes sense.
And then it's The Last Jedi is next. So they're on General Grievous's ship. I think the next thing that is like setting up for the Clone Wars, 1 is Anakin never meeting General Grievous. Yeah. And he says, like, it's the whole thing that he hasn't met
taller
before.
Or you're smaller, or what does he say, shorter than I expected?
You're shorter than I expected. Yeah. And I think it's, I don't know, it's funny because like Dave Filoni had to like really dance around that the entire time. And another thing, General Grievous says, Obi-Wan, the negotiator. Yeah. And that's like in the first Clone Wars movie, he's like the negotiator in the first. And I think it's cool because like the people that made the Clone Wars is not like a love fest for the Clone Wars or anything, but I think they really did the research on episode 3. So not to jump around. No. I wanted to jump to...
I mean, Clone Wars fits with episode 3 so much.
It does.
So it's like, it's not...
No.
Forgive us if we're jumping
I just got
around.
A question today on Instagram about what was Count Dooku thinking?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was just talking about this yesterday when we were rewatching it. Poor guy, honestly.
What like I haven't read the novelization, and I wonder if it says it in there.
Ooh,
because I think in my mind, what he thought was going to happen was his master was bringing these 2 Jedi. For some, like a lot of people say he was just bringing them there to kill them because they were bad, but he would have known that he wanted Anakin this whole time.
Yep.
I think there was part of him that thought maybe he would turn Anakin and not Palpatine.
Yeah, maybe. And like Palpatine would be the one to get cut off since there's always 2. Yeah. That is unique. Because like Obi-Wan doesn't die per se, but he gets put in a precarious situation in that fight to the point where if Anakin didn't go back for him, and if for some reason Obi-Wan was to be lost in that moment, maybe Anakin would have turned, because losing Obi-Wan could have affected him enough to turn him to the dark side. But yeah, I think here's Palpatine's pitch in my head. Dooku fights them at the end of 2. Dooku gets away only because Yoda comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Like if Yoda's not there, like I think they both lose, right?
Yeah, well, they're dead.
Yeah, so I think Dooku is confident that he can take them. And now he has so much excitement on the line when Anakin says, my power has doubled since I met you. And then Dooku instantly bites back with and you probably know it better than me. What's the line? It's something about like his pride. Your pride has doubled as well or something like that.
Double the pride, double the fall.
Yeah, I think it's like that. Yeah. And it's like Dooku says that so quick and witty, but like he was probably banking on that because Palpatine has been, eyeing Anakin for a while. He knows Anakin's little ticks and how Anakin's mind works. So he's probably like, Dooku, hear me out, bro. They're going to come save me because they think I'm this good guy. And you're just going to get Anakin to his last legs. And then we're going to kill Obi-Wan. We're going to try to turn him, yada, yada, yada. And I'm sure like I said, Dooku's confident. He beat these two guys before. Like what reason would he have to be scared of them? And also Grievous is in the same building. Like,
for some reason, not there.
Yeah, which is kind of crazy. But if they needed backup, like they have tons of droids, they have Grievous. Like Dooku must have felt so confident. And then for him to die, the moment when Palpatine goes, do it.
Dude, that Ian McDiarmid has so many funny faces in that
poor
movie.
Guy,
it's so good.
Some of those edits are just tragic on his end, but they're awesome for the audience. But yeah, I feel for Dooku a little bit, even though he is a villain. What did you think of it?
I never, when I rewatching these recently, I started actually thinking about these things. 'Cause I never really thought about motive and all this stuff. Like, okay, there he is. They're gonna bring him on. He's saving him. Cool. He kills him. But like, like his face when he tells him to kill him, he's just like shocked. Like, part of me is if I didn't know that the original trilogy existed. Yeah. It's like there's so many moments like just fix it. Like Count Dooku could be like, oh, he's a Sith Lord, by the way. Yeah. like dude. And he'd be like, oh wait, huh? And like would have like took him off guard, like anything. He didn't say anything.
Yep.
Like there's so many moments like that. I'm like, just fix it. It's like you can't fix it because it has to end up where it does.
Yeah.
Count Dooku, very sad. Darth Tyrannus.
Yeah, he's kind of like a cool Sith.
He is really cool.
And like Christopher Lee, like perfect casting for that role, completely honestly. And like his acting chops show in that scene as well. Just like that look of surprise really pays off. So I like it.
I completely agree. I think there's a lot of, I'll touch on like CGI at this point.
Sure.
Because the intro, like there's a lot of CGI in the prequels. But I think obviously compared to episode 2, episode 2's not trash.
The pear scene, dude. The pear scene.
I love the pear scene.
Pear scene goes hard.
The pear scene's great. I think the worst bit of episode 2 is Camino. Yeah. And just him walking around this white void of stuff. Yeah. So compared to that, to this movie, I feel like it's leaps and bounds better.
For sure. Yeah.
There's definitely some goofy moments, but I think it holds up still.
Yeah, and one thing that I didn't even say, Esther, because I wanted to save it for this, is when they get back onto Coruscant after their whole first 30 minutes of the movie, and Anakin's running to Padme, and they share that little moment in that big hall. The big hall looks really like fake, not like in a bad way. Like the lighting's good and stuff, but like anyone that knows CG at all, you can tell it's fake. And like obviously they're not going to build that big set, but like it looks Star Wars. Like it fits so well. And like it might not be shadowed perfectly to like our own realistic world, but like I don't know, there's something about, and maybe it's just because I'm heavily biased, maybe that's why, but there's something about the CGI in episode 3 and the little bits in episode 1. It just really hits. Episode 2, like we just said, is a little rough, like it just really is. But yeah, I think CG in certain points in Star Wars is really detracting from it. But I think overall it's pretty good.
No, yeah, I think they killed it. And I think that, and like the whole part, like I never knew growing up that all the clones were not real.
Right.
There was no clones. There was no armor ever made for the actual filming of the movie.
Which is insane.
Which I had no clue of that.
It's kind of like mind blowing even now.
In episode 2, rewatching it, you can tell. If you're looking for episode 3 is like it's pretty good. Like actually having people move like that and actually doing well.
Yeah, you see Commander Cody walking around. Yeah, he looks good.
Like he hands him the lightsaber and stuff. Like it's really well done. And I'm pretty. I think I think they just went a long ways, and George Lucas always tried to do that. He always was trying to push the envelope of everything because
which is awesome.
And another point to episode 3 is like, right, it doesn't feel like any other Star Wars, kind of. Like it feels like it's in the right place.
Yeah.
But George, he doesn't want to make just like another Death Star and like another. He wanted them to feel different, which I think is sick.
He succeeded on for sure.
Yeah, and I think that is one thing. I mean, I'm a big George Lucas fan.
Oh yeah, same.
He's one of my only role model in modern day anything.
Let's go.
So I think I'm a bit. There was a lot of like backlash, right, for when the movie came out. Like people hated it. Some people didn't go see it. It's the same with like the Rise of Skywalker. Like some people just didn't see it.
Yep.
I didn't actually get to see it in theaters.
I did.
I was gonna go over this at the intro, but like I didn't get. I was 10, and I didn't get to go.
Yeah, I was
even
7.
Yeah. So I was pretty sheltered homeschool.
Yeah.
So after it was released, my friends like described everything to me.
Ooh.
So like they're like, okay, so like R2D2, he like sprays all this oil, then he like shoots it. Like they were so stoked on the R2D2 stuff.
Yeah.
And then we
crazy.
finally rented it, and I finally watched it.
And your mind was just blown.
No, it was awesome. But like, I mean, I don't know. It's such a weird time being 10.
Yeah. I feel like media impacts you at a different level.
Like it was good, and like I was pretty worried about stuff. Like I was like back then when you're like 10, I was pretty worried about people like, are they going to survive? Even though I know Obi-Wan's like alive, I was still like concerned about the stakes.
Yeah, for
I was
sure.
like, oh, are they going to make it? I don't know if they're going to do it. I don't.
I mean, it might be like a childish factor of me even today, but like, I'm trying to think of a good example. I don't know. Let's just use literally the same example you used. When I watch episode 3 today, I just allow my mind to just get into it in the sense of like, when Obi-Wan gets crushed by like the walkway, when Dooku like brings it down, I'm still like, oh, like I feel for that character. And I know not everyone's like that, because like you might be looking at me and being like, oh, that's dumb. But it's like, no, it makes personally for me, makes my enjoyment of the movie a lot more enjoyable. Because I'm just like, it makes the stakes feel higher. So yeah, I totally get what you're saying.
Because if you go into that movie and not like, oh, they survived, so like whatever. Yeah. It's kind of like when I was riding roller coasters as a kid. Super scary. And then I was like, you know what? I'm not scared of these anymore. And they sucked.
Yeah.
It's just like, I'm not going to be scared. It's like, oh, this really is boring because it's not scary anymore. So like not letting yourself be immersed in movies, especially on like your first watch through of any movie. That's how I go to like all new Star Wars movies. I'm just like, this is so exciting.
Yeah.
And so like normally my first watch through of any Star Wars movie, I'm just like, this is awesome. And the second one, I'm like, okay, wait, huh?
Yeah.
On certain sequel films.
Yep. certain ones. I wonder which.
I don't know which one it was.
Oh, okay.
Well, hard to say.
I will say I saw episode 7 a lot when it came out. Like the hype did not die for me for a while. I think I saw it 4 times in the theaters and maybe like a month. It was bad. I was deep in it. And like episode 7 is great. Like it's got its good moments, but watching it back now, the romanticization of it all kind of has faded away.
So is 8 your least favorite?
Yes.
Or 9? Hey.
Oh, well, okay.
It goes back. A lot of people have different opinions on that.
It's tough because like 8 is where Luke Skywalker's character really gets trashed around. And that like hurts me deep as a fan, because like Luke, this might not be a good analogy here, but like Luke is like the Jesus of Star Wars in my eyes. Like he's supposed to be the character that can't do any wrong, or if he does wrong, he knows, like he fixes it right away, or he apologizes. He's like the role model character in Star Wars. So to see him, good old Mark Hamill with the beard and the hair, love it. I love the look that they went for Luke, by the way. I do like that. But to see him be all angry and grumpy was really a bummer. And I was like, what is this? So I think episode 8 I didn't like in theaters as much. Episode 9 I did, even though the Sidious stuff was, dude, don't even get me started. But episode 9 is such a movie. Like it's very cinematic. Like sure, you might not love the story, and to this day I still have problems with it, but like watching everyone fly in at the end, like for the general audience, that's hype. Like for, the Star Wars fan audience, it might be a little but like for a general audience, it's hype. So the first time I saw it, I was like, this is great. Like, this is cool. And I was really bummed when Kylo died, actually. But yeah, second watch through of episode 9 was way rougher than my second watch through of episode 8.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. That's so
Yeah.
weird. I'm excited because I have a guy on the list that one of his favorite Star Wars movies is The Last Jedi, and I'm really interested on how that's going to go.
Fun. But yeah, so episode 8, I think really just it falters from having the break in writers. I think it was Ryan, right? Ryan does 8.
Yeah.
And I think Ryan Johnson's great. He did Knives Out, and he did the Knives Out series really well. I don't recall any other major movies that he's done. So it's like, for me in my head, it's Knives Out and then episode 8. But I think Canto Bite is probably my least favorite moment of Star Wars ever.
Yeah.
And when I rewatch, I skip through most of those scenes. But I really like the end of episode 8 with the Kylo kind of just screaming more. Like, I don't know. It's got good moments. And
it has good moments.
the thing is, like, it promised a lot. Like, man, I thought Rey was going to be like Obi-Wan's kid or like someone like there's so many different theories that I had going out of that movie. And then they all fell apart when I saw episode 9.
This is true. So, Anakin, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Back to episode 3. That's what we're here for. Sorry.
Let's touch on Anakin and Padme situation.
Ooh.
So the first scene they're back is they're in that big hall you're talking about.
Yeah.
She's like hiding over there, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta go talk to her."
Uh-huh.
Hugging her, like hasn't seen her in a long time. She thinks she
Yeah.
had died. I have some wonderful news, and he's like, "I don't know what kind of wonderful news you actually got."
Yeah.
I'm pregnant, and he isn't as stoked as he's supposed to be in that moment as a father.
Mm-hmm.
He like goes through like all the stages of grief right there.
Yeah, you said that. I like that.
Frame.
Yeah.
But
a little confused.
But as in a relationship's point, he kind of like brings it back
very quickly
because she's like, "Oh, what are we gonna do?" He's like, "No, like this is a happy moment. Let's just live in it." And like that's
Which
like the
is very mature for him.
very mature thing to do. And he does that multiple times, I think, in the movie where he kind of like brings it back, where he has like has problems and he like doesn't let Padme like worry about it. So because like next is
the dreams.
well, there's standing on the balcony, which so like a lot of people like obviously it's still better than episode 2.
Yes. Yes.
Dialogue
I think so by
wise.
far.
But people still have problems with like the balcony scene where he's like, "You're so beautiful." She's like, "It's only because I'm so in love." It's like, "No, I'm so in love with you." But like the way that I see that is kind of like more of like a cutesy like couple thing.
Yeah.
Like kind of like because she cuts from, "So love has blinded you," and coming from a 9 years of being married.
Yep.
Sometimes your partner will just spring like a really
Hit you some
intense
deep
questions
yeah.
just out of nowhere, and he's like, "No."
He's like, "Oh, Padme, I love you."
You're probably right. But like, so like in my mind, it's more like a flirty, cutesy thing instead of just bad dialogue.
Yeah.
It's kind. I mean, I can see it both ways, but in my mind, it's more like they're just kind of like being friends. My wife said yesterday she saw that scene and she's like, it's just like they don't even know each other. Which kind of they're together a lot.
Yeah, I think one, especially not knowing Clone Wars, like not knowing the show Clone Wars yet, when episode 3 was just itself. It's hard to gauge the time that they haven't been together because we don't really know. Like, obviously we know that he says that he's like, we've been on the front lines of the galactic something. I don't know. But like, you don't know how long he's been out there with Obi-Wan. You don't know how many different battles they've been, how long it's been since he's seen Padme. So obviously less than 9 months. But yeah, it's like, you don't know that distance, and distance makes the heart grow fonder, classic line. But it can make relationships a little bit awkward because she's just here at home. Who knows how long she's known about the baby, and she's just had to keep that hidden. Like, oh, that's terrible. Like I can't imagine that. And so for him to come back home, instantly get that news, and then instantly have her be like, "Do you still love me?" Like, oh, that would be tough for that guy. And another thing that you said is he goes through the stages of grief and then he catches himself and is like, "No, this is good. This is a good thing." I wonder if instead of it being like a good thing and a mature reaction, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Mm-hmm. Instead of it being like him being mature and catching himself in those thoughts, what if it's him just like having an "it's fine" mentality? Like, I'm not going to think about it. It's fine. Like, just, it's going to be okay, Padme. Like, let's just like keep moving on. Like, I feel like it could go either way there.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think it's mainly just him trying to move on with the situation because in the next scene after his dreams about Padme dying, she instantly says, "Does the babies make it? Do the babies make? Does it make the baby? I guess the baby make it?
I don't know,
because he obviously just doesn't care about that kid at all.
Yeah.
And that really shows it. But then I can't remember what he says right after that, but he does a line, another catch, like, but I won't let that happen, or like whatever. Like, I'm not too worried about it, kind of deal.
Because his whole thing, like Anakin's whole story, like, and it really, really starts in episode 2 when he loses his mother, is he never wants to fail the ones that he loves again. And that's like one of his biggest downfalls, because Obi-Wan obviously goes through that a little bit in the Clone Wars with, what's her name? The, you know who I'm talking about. I'm putting you on the spot. I'm so sorry.
I put you on the spot for trivia, and now you just tell me. It's like
Satine.
Isn't it Satine?
Satine or Sabine?
No, Sabine's the other cousin.
Okay.
Satine.
We're going with Satine. Obi-Wan deals with the loss of a loved one with, we'll say Satine for now, in the Clone Wars show. But you see him move on from that in a very mature way, and he bounces back pretty quickly because he is a Jedi after all. Like, yes, he has this moment of attraction, but he doesn't really let that mess with him too far. Whereas you have Anakin, and like, I think it's either when he's talking to Padme or when he's talking to Yoda, when he mentions how he still dreams of his mother's death, and you can hear the Tusken Raiders like that was in the background. Is that Yoda?
That was with Palpatine on Grievous's ship.
Oh,
he said,
wow.
"Remember what you told me about the Tusken Raiders?" And
okay. Yeah, so it's like that still haunts Anakin. Where with Obi-Wan, it doesn't really haunt him as much. It still like Anakin's mother's death still haunts him so much that he never wants to do wrong with another loved one. So that's why he's always like with Padme, like, no, it's not going to happen. Like, we're going to be fine. And that's just another domino on that long line of dominoes that kicks him over into being Darth Vader.
Yeah, a comment I just got yesterday. I asked a question on my Instagram story. Hot takes on this movie.
Yeah.
And someone's hot take, which I don't really feel like it's a hot take. It's just they wish they would show more Padme, because like in the deleted scenes there's a lot more Padme stuff to go over, and because you don't really get any of her side of what's going on, really, or like what she's doing during this time, which obviously we can't have a 3-hour cut yet of Revenge of the Sith. We want it. But there are a lot of deleted scenes of her doing stuff, but we don't really get her side of what's going on, because it is, it's Skywalker's story, it's Anakin's story.
Yep.
And he just like leaves her there, and she just like hangs out basically with like C-3PO all the time.
Jar Jar, maybe.
I wish. We only get
more Jar Jar
because like I think the only time she leaves like the apartment besides going to Mustafar is when the Empire is created in the Senate. Like, she doesn't leave hardly before that.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer, because she's a great character, and like we, in the Clone Wars, we develop her character so much in the Clone Wars.
And episode 2.
In episode 2, we get a lot more of her in it. So it's kind of a bummer not to get as much. Maybe people would have liked it better if they had like more scenes together, more chemistry.
Because it's kind of hard to it's hard to feel for her when it's episode 3 is mainly action the whole time. And she's not a part of it. So it's like, it almost feels like to the audience that really only likes Star Wars for the action. I bet those scenes with Padme feel like nails grating on a chalkboard.
It's like forever.
It just like, it like cuts the action to these slower scenes. But like, to me, and probably to you as well, those slow scenes are like some of the best, because that's where you really see the characters like be who they are. But yeah, Padme kind of loses out in this movie. But R2-D2 wins. So
in the intro, because he's gone.
Yeah, true.
He's gone after this.
Yeah, he appears at the very end, right, when she's having the babies. Right,
yeah,
he's right there.
He's there, and he's also on Mustafar. But like he's done. He's done after that.
But he has a good opening. He kills it.
Yeah. Let's kind of get into, because continuing Anakin. So after that, he goes and he hangs out with like Palpatine. Well, he goes to Yoda.
Yep.
And so like I think like some of the obviously there's a lot of things that led to him the fall.
Yeah.
But obviously the dreams of Padme and like wanting to save her, not letting her not save her, not saving her. He talked to Yoda, and Yoda's just like, suck it up, dude. He's like, what does he say? His quote is, train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose.
Ugh,
so like
terrible. The humanity
Jedi
is just not there.
aren't really the best.
No. And that's what makes it so interesting, though.
And I think that's why, just like a side note, I think that's why Anakin talks so weird, is because he's like a homeschool kid raised by space wizards who do talk weird all of them
No,
talk
you're
weird.
so right. You're
like you got
so
Yoda
right.
for one, but all of them talk super properly and like really
Yeah.
like weird way they talk.
Yeah.
So now you have this kid trying to flirt with a girl.
Yeah.
And like it's gonna be awkward. I've met more awkward people than that were not raised by
Yes.
space wizards.
Yeah.
like so like to that point, I think the way he talks to me, I think
fits. I think it so fits.
like yes, not every main character can be the perfect suave man that everybody wants it to be, but I'm okay with that.
yeah, it's no like Joaquin Phoenix acting level, but like that's not what it needed.
No.
And I think George knew that, because like you have Ewan, and I think Ewan is really good in the movies, but that's because Obi-Wan's character is like really well put together. So they need an actor that was put together.
Yeah.
But Anakin's all over the place, and Hayden fits it.
I'll touch on the Ewan McGregor because I do have some points anti Ewan McGregor.
Sure.
From
Yeah,
this.
yeah. No, I know where you're gonna go.
But we'll do him next.
Okay.
So Anakin, he has his dreams, right?
Yep.
And then he talks to Yoda. Yoda's like, "Suck it up," and then they're like, "Hey, Palpatine wants to meet with you," and Obi-Wan's already kind of like, I don't know if that's a good thing. He's like, but what's great? They can more executive powers. He can like take over. He's like, search your feelings. Like, okay, whatever. He goes and meets with him at the space opera circus thing.
Yeah.
And then we get
the classic.
You ever hear? Dude, some of his voices from dying.
If you're
looks. He does
if
a lot
you're
of looks.
only listening, Kent's doing, or Memoby's doing the looks right now. He's doing the Palpatine looks.
He's anyway. But
It's so
Palpatine.
funny.
Another comment I got was, how did Palpatine know every single thing that was going to happen, right? Because there's a lot of question marks. How did he know that they were going to beat Count Dooku? How did he know that he was going to start having dreams right now, unless he made those dreams?
And that's something that I've thought before too. Yeah.
Because but it's not that hard to guess what the Jedi are going to do in these situations.
Yeah.
But he tells him the story of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise. And he's like, oh, dang, you can save the ones from dying? Neat.
Plants
Not
the mental
Jedi.
seed.
And then he cleans his teeth, and he's like, ironic, isn't it?
A little Grinch action there. I think that scene is, one, hysterical. I love it every time from just a funny Star Wars moment. But it's really good because it shows that Anakin can't search his feelings, or that he doesn't really want to. Maybe Anakin's scared of his feelings. That's kind of how I feel about it. Because if you throw any other Jedi into that situation, I feel like they're instantly sussing him out and being like, okay. And I feel like they'd be on top of it. But Anakin has those mental flaws that, keep him a little barred from searching his feelings. And so when he has the Jedi instantly closing him off from any questions or anything that he really wants, and then he has this nice dude, well, from his perspective, nice dude, kind of feeding into the answers that he wants. Like, he's going to go for it. It's a great analogy would be like someone that moves to LA looking for fame. Maybe they want to be like the next Sabrina Carpenter. They want to be like the next big singer, and they find this sleazy manager that's like, oh, I'm going to make you big. Like they might get like that might feed into them, and they might want to go for it. So I feel like it's the same thing for Anakin. Anakin's dream is to save the ones he loves, and Chancellor Palpatine is, I almost said Sidious. Chancellor Palpatine is there slowly feeding into it and just giving him what he wants to hear.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like Anakin, like Jedi aren't the best at giving praise to each other, and you did you did a good job here and there, but from his perspective, yes, his brother, mentor, father figure, Obi-Wan, he's a great guy, but he's not like they're building him up like Palpatine is for all these years, because he said, like, the line is like, ever since I got here, because he's like, we'll be watching your career with great interest. Yeah. And so I think he's been meeting with him for all these years, even through episode 2 and everything. So I think that there's all this backstory of this mentor and this person that's helping him and just encouraging him and setting those seeds of doubt in the Jedi. Yeah. Because the next thing he does is he just says, I'm appointing you to the Jedi, like the Jedi Council, which it still feels weird. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, oh, the Jedi elect their own members. Like, yeah, duh. Why would you? Yeah, I would just be like, okay, no, that's not how it works, dude. Sorry. Thanks for the offer, but that's not how it's gonna work. Yeah. But Palpatine obviously knows that they're not gonna. They're either just gonna say no, and then destroy him, or know, and you're still on the council, which is end up what they're doing. So
Yeah.
I think it's not that crazy for him to assume that or foresee it as a Sith Lord, that they would just be like, you're on this council, but you're not a master.
Yeah. And it raises the question, are the Jedi predictable? Like, I feel like Sidious is kind of manipulating them through Anakin and through other ways. And it's like maybe he just understands how Yoda and the other masters think. Because, I mean, when you have a religion or like Jediism or like those rules that they follow, it can make someone very strict, but then that strictness can make them very predictable. So there could be a little bit of that. But yeah, I think another thing, and I think this is something that Clone Wars kind of missed out on, because I wish Clone Wars would have delved into the relationship between Palpatine and Anakin a little bit more. Because like in my head canon, they're like hollow FaceTiming during the war, because like Anakin's out and about, and like maybe Palpatine's calling him like, hey, how you doing? Like just checking in. Like just those little things mean a lot to someone when they're in one, war, but two, in like the strict nature of the Jedi code. So
like even in the deleted scenes, there's a lot of them, because like there's scenes where they're walking and talking, and like it's obvious they had a conversation before that. Yeah, and they're there in the deleted scenes, but they just weren't, I guess, relevant enough to actually keep in the film. Yeah, because there are scenes that just like start and they're like walking and they're just like already having a conversation, like, well, how did we get here? What conversation were they having? Kind of deal. So I think there is more of that, but I think it's just time. I think there was too much to put in this story. There's too much going on. I do believe that Obi-Wan wasn't really necessary to have his story. They just like gave him Grievous to go fight. Like to the story of Anakin needs to come from a Jedi to something to become a Sith. Like, but they wanted something for Obi-Wan to do.
They need the B plot.
They needed the B plot. Yeah, but sadly, it's really not relevant to the overall storyline. No. It gets him somewhere else where he can get shot or whatever. But before we get into that, let's keep.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's keep with Anakin again. So that was like a big thing. Like, okay, they don't even like me, and they also asked me to spy on him. Oh, that was after. Yes. So it goes. They ask him to spy on him. Then he goes and learns the tragedy. Yeah, is after that, because he's like, did they do something that made you feel uncomfortable or whatever?
Well, what's so
did
funny?
They ask you to spy on me? Like,
yeah, it was like, and that's another thing. Are the Jedi predictable? Like he knew, like he could tell. But how can you go and to this kid that's obviously going to be mad that he's not a master, and then like poor Obi-Wan had to do this and be like, yeah, like you're not a master, but hey, this is still like a big deal. No one your age has ever been on the council before, like yada yada yada. And Anakin's like very mad, you can tell. And then right after that, Obi-Wan's like, oh, and by the way, can you spy on this guy for us and tell us everything? Like Anakin is probably not at the most trusting level of the Jedi at that point. It's crazy to me that's how it goes, because like if the Jedi are so wise, you'd think they would know. But maybe the Jedi have problems navigating emotions with other people.
I think Obi-Wan does a great job there. Be like, yes, because like, why are you asking me this? Like the council's asking you. Yeah. Like it's not me. Yeah. But to that point, because like part of his fall is like not trusting Obi-Wan. Yeah. And they said that earlier. He goes to see Padme, and Padme's like, oh, Obi-Wan was here. Yeah. It's like, well, what do you mean Obi-Wan was here in my house? Like, oh, he's worried about you. It's like, we don't need Obi-Wan. Like, and like it's kind of like he's kind of like not trusting him, and like it's. Like he's sneaking around behind his back, hanging out with like Padme and stuff. Like there's two scenes where he like sees Padme and he knows, and he's kind of like why are you hanging out with my wife that you don't know is my wife? In my mind, like Obi-Wan just knew the whole time.
100%.
Because like where does he go every night to go live? Yes. Where do you stay, dude?
It's like Obi-Wan's what is it called? Like showing a blind eye to that. Like because he knows and he doesn't want to inhibit Anakin any further, I think. But no, on that point, like if Anakin and Obi-Wan are so close, why is Anakin getting mad about that anyways? Like I'm in a relationship, he's in a relationship. I think that if I happen to be at your house hanging out with your wife or vice versa, and you're hanging out with my fiance, I wouldn't find that weird at all. So like, or maybe it's different,
I think there's a lot of like codependency going on here. Yeah, because Anakin like needs Padme.
Very true.
It's like it's his life to be with her.
Literally,
like he cannot live without her. Yeah, he says, and he does later. But of the movie. That is the plot of the movie. But like I think there is something to it. Like he's very jealous of anyone that's around him. Like that's in the Clone Wars where like that guy's like kind of like flirting with Padme. and he like just like punches him or something.
Yeah.
And he like is about to kill him like out of nowhere, which is
crazy,
insane.
Thank God C-3PO is a robot, or else he'd be getting Anakin's hands.
C-3PO's killing it, dude. C-3PO has nothing to do with in that movie in episode 3.
Very true.
Which is sad, but he just says he's useless at one point, I think.
Does he
I
really?
just feel helpless.
Oh, poor guy.
So then basically he goes and talks to Palpatine again, and he's like, "Oh, you're a Sith Lord. Shoot." And Palpatine's like, "Well, you better report me." Like he's like because he's setting up the seeds of be playing innocent at the time that they get there.
Yep.
So I mean, I think it's all very orchestrated. I don't think it's an issue, because right before that, there's one more thing that they set. He says, "Oh, we know where General Grievous is. You should probably do that. If they don't choose you, I'd question them." And then they choose Obi-Wan. Yep. Which is like his exact person that he already doesn't trust a little bit.
Yeah, and he's questioning it more.
So he's like, okay. And then I think that was like the final straw, to where once he figures out that he's a Sith Lord, he tells Mace Windu, and Mace Windu's like, if what you've told me is true, you have my trust. Yeah. What I think it's in a book or somewhere where it says, like, basically, if they would have went and took out Palpatine, they were going to come back and make Anakin a master at that point, because he gained his trust. Like, okay, you got it. You gained my trust. You actually ratted him out. Cool. You're a master now. But he obviously couldn't be patient, and obviously I think Mace Windu would have won. Maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
Here's a question, because Sidious is so OP, a little too OP, sadly, in that his final scene. Yeah. He ends up, throwing his lightsaber, and Anakin doesn't see it right when he gets there, and it's just
Mace.
It's just Mace. And right before that, he said, like, if you don't know it, they're going to find out eventually. They're trying to overthrow me. They're trying to take over. They don't even trust the Senate. They don't trust me. Yeah. So when he gets there and he sees the one guy that might know how to save Padme, and a guy he doesn't really like, Mace Windu.
Yeah, they've had friction most of the series.
Yeah, and I think Palpatine, like, throwing his lightsaber right at that moment, right before he gets in there, is what he was going for.
100%. Yeah.
And then we get some great scenes of yelling power and stuff like that. And
Unlimited.
Anyways, he's like, that's one of those other scenes. As a kid, I was like, just poke him. Yeah, because like Mace Windu's like right there's like just like, oh, a trip, oh, he's dead, like there's little, and instead of like and all that whole stuff.
But it's a movie.
It is, and I think in the moment, his like spur of the like moment decision, just like he did it, and I feel like I'm trying to remember, like I didn't have anger problems as a kid, but I was very angry as a child, a little bit.
Okay, explain, elaborate.
Meaning, like it's like I do it. I don't do it now. I don't want to say that. Have you ever had that moment where like it's something's like happening and then like it all just throw it on the ground? It's like you're dropping something, like drop one cup, just like, oh, just smash them. Like you see videos of kids doing it all the time. Yes, that's what it felt like to me with Anakin. He killed Mace Windu. He's like, well, screw it, let's just kill them all. Yeah, like, you know what? Like, I've already done this. There's no going back for me. Like, let's just end it for everything. I feel like it was a moment that's like, well,
it's all over now.
The gloves are off. Let's just. This is my life now, and just kind of accepting this is just reality.
Because Mace is such a big master too. Like big
number
master.
2.
Yeah, exactly. He's the number 2. Like, having Mace's blood kind of be splattered on Anakin's hands in a way. I'm sure that made him freak out, and like. Obviously, there's the fun theory that Mace isn't dead, which is crazy. But yeah, I think from that moment on, there was no going back. Because, like, how do you go back?
I mean, he maybe could have potentially, but like not really, not to the Jedi.
But like Obi-Wan's not there to protect him.
No,
and like that's the only other person that would really stand up for him. Yoda would just be like, I sense anger in you.
Like, I knew I shouldn't have made you a Jedi back in the day. I wish I could go back.
Oh my gosh.
So I think he just pretty much said, screw it. Like, let's just send it and let's do this. Because his first line after doing that was like, he's like, I pledge myself to your teachings, which is a goofy line. But then he's like, just help me save Padme. He's like, that's all I care about. Yeah. I will do anything. He's like, I've already done this. I'll do anything at this point to save Padme. There's no going back. So I need her to be alive.
Bro's crashing out.
And and then it's funny because Palpatine's like, he's like, well, we'll figure it out. Like, I don't really know, but you know,
Palpatine doesn't even give him a good answer.
He's like, well, we'll figure it out.
He's like, I'll go find Plagueis. Surely he's still alive somewhere.
he's like, we don't really know the mysteries, but we'll maybe.
Oh my gosh,
must not taught him everything.
This is why you always ask for evidence, kids.
And then he goes and kills everyone. Yeah, and gets some. I mean, some people say it's like, without the music, Order 66 is nothing, right? Like it's not nearly as intense without the music.
Yeah.
But for some reason, like I was watching a video reviewing episode 3 recently, and the guy was like, well, I just don't really care. He's like, when they're dying, like it's not that intense without the music.
Oh, that's
I'm like,
sad.
it's like, that's not true, man. The troopers like stopping,
Yeah.
Kitty Monday, like turning around, like, all these people.
You got to put yourself in the scene. Like you got to put yourself in the mind of Kiadi or in the mind of Ayla or in the mind of like the small, what's the actor's name again that plays the kid?
Wait, what?
The guy that you got to meet. Do you remember his name?
Ross Beedman.
Yeah, Ross Beedman. Or in the mind of Ross Beedman as he's dying to the hands of Anakin. Like, you got to be able to understand what that character is going through. Because imagine this. We'll use Ross for example. Imagine the young trainee Jedi kid only ever looking up to any other Jedi that's older than him or bigger than him. And then one shows up and they're already scared because all of this stuff is happening.
Yeah.
And then saber ignites and now you and your like kid friends are dying. Like that's dark, man. Like as a kid, I remember my parents being like, okay, let's look away at the scene. Like I remember having to look away at Order 66 because like that's actually intense stuff. And I feel like as adults, we can become like quite jaded to it because we've one, maybe seen it a lot, but two, it's just like, it's just a movie, it's not a big deal. But like, man, to those characters like that was like terrible. It's really tragic.
It's such, and obviously, John Williams does a killer job of making it super epic.
Yes.
But I think that scene does have a lot of weight. And I think obviously Yoda like feeling it through the Force and like everyone dying and like, it's kind of like a callback to Obi-Wan when like the planet got blown up by the Death Star and like him feeling it like 1,000 voices crying out in some like silence. I think obviously Yoda had to survive, but I think I don't know, the whole scene of him cutting the heads off is great. Yeah. And then I love, this is kind of continuing, but like Chewbacca and Tarfor, I think his name is, them just like, whoa, what?
Yeah,
because
dude.
like they didn't like, oh, I guess we're just killing them now. Sweet. And like there's like, let's go.
Like we're fighting droids and now we're fighting our allies.
They're just like, okay, sweet, let's do it, Yoda, because great relations with the Wookiees.
Yes, he does indeed.
But I think to me, Anakin's fall makes sense, and 100%. It works for me. I think maybe they could have done a little more. I don't know. Like obviously you can do, there's lots of things you can go back and do better. But I think what they had, it made sense to me. And you had to get there in the end. But like, I wish I had the statistic, not statistic, but the hour marker, like the percentage through the movie when he becomes Darth Vader.
Is it 66?
No, I wish.
Okay, I was about to say, I was like, that'd be nuts.
No, but it's like just barely over halfway the movie.
Wow. Okay.
There's still so much to do.
Wow. Yeah.
You don't really notice it.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
It's really early on.
I mean, Order 66 takes a long time.
It does, because that's right after that.
But yeah, I guess you're right. Because next we jump to where does Anakin go after that? Does he go straight to Mustafar?
Yeah, he goes straight to Mustafar, and then he.
But we jump to Obi-Wan and Grievous fighting first, right?
No, because that's
already happened.
That's already happened.
Okay.
Because Order 66, he falls into the water, and they're like, no one could survive that, not even a Jedi. And then he goes and he finds all the people, Yoda and everything.
Yep.
But I think his fall makes sense. So let's talk about Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Ooh.
So
one of my favorite
what
characters.
about the droid attack on the Wookiees? He's like, okay, Obi-Wan goes to get Grievous. But I don't know why they don't send more. I guess they don't have enough Jedi, but they're all sitting around. I don't know. Like I feel like we could send like a couple knights and stuff to have a couple more Jedi, but I guess we have our battalions of clones.
That's like the one thing, dude, like going back that I wish George would have changed is having more Jedi be on these missions. Because it's like, sure, it makes sense to like have a master and their Padawan moving together, but like, man, these are some big things that
didn't even get that.
Yeah, no, yeah, true. But
all the Jedi never had any apprentices, like Padawans in any like the Order 66 scenes. They should all had one person.
Exactly.
With them.
There should be more Jedi together. Like because there are tons of Jedi Knights in the.
They're spread thin slightly, but yes.
Yeah, but like
the Masters mainly.
I feel like you should see a lot more. And I love. It's Mandalorian, right? When we see Order 66 again through Grogu's eyes.
Yep.
And you see a lot more Jedi in that, and I really appreciate that. But I feel like they're definitely like Obi-Wan should have taken 2 random Jedi with him, Jedi Knights, or because obviously Anakin's not really his Padawan super much at that point. Like he still is, but like Anakin's his own person. So I don't know. That's like my one thing that I wish we would have seen more in the prequels is just more Jedi in general.
Yeah, I don't know. It was interesting point to not have more Jedi. But I've never really thought about that till just now, actually.
Yeah.
Like, there's not a lot of Jedi, because now in new shows, whether you like them or not, like Acolyte, there's always like extra Jedi and apprentices
there's
and
tons
stuff.
now.
Which I think is good. So Obi-Wan, my point I was going to make was he doesn't have a lot of scenes to act well. Meaning besides Mustafar,
he kills it.
They don't give him places to be emotional or show emotion. He's just being Obi-Wan Kenobi. Like Anakin is forced to be in a lot of these crazy emotional mood swing type scenarios, episode 1, episode 3. But like that's why people are like, Obi-Wan, like Ewan McGregor killed it, which he did, but they never didn't necessarily give him a place to show off his acting ability in a way, because he's just like doing his like normal thing and just like being witty and talking to like General Grievous and stuff. So I think they just didn't quite give him not necessarily. I don't think they should have given him more, but to the point of I like Hayden Christensen and I think he killed it.
Yes,
but they gave him. He was the most emotionally
developed character.
Yeah, and like they gave him the most scenes to have to be emotional in.
Yeah, because it's his story after all.
Yeah,
but I think going back to this little fun point is Obi-Wan or Ewan. Doesn't have a lot to do, right? Like he kind of just keeps the same mood until Mustafar, and then he kind of has some good lines and good moments as an actor. But it's like, what is good acting? Is good acting screaming at the camera really well and delivering your line perfectly, or is it embodying a character to a certain extent? For me personally, it's the second one. Like so, like Ewan. Even when I see Ewan McGregor has a lot of other works, they're amazing. Even when I see Ewan McGregor in like the DC movies where he's like Black Mask or like in his little documentary things, I still see Obi-Wan. Yeah. Because it's like he embodied that character so well. Kind of the same thing for Liam Neeson and Qui-Gon. It's just like that's Qui-Gon. That also could be because I grew up with them as those characters. But I feel like Obi-Wan is just like a steady guy. Like we shouldn't be seeing him have crazy emotions because that's not who he is. Yeah. But we do see him have the pretty drastic emotion when he's finally losing someone that he really cares about, which is Anakin at the end, and he has to really deal with that. And that's that's rough. But I think Ewan does do really good at embodying the character. He does not get many moments though to like really show himself.
Because they give him General Grievous, but General Grievous is pointless.
He's totally, dude.
He adds nothing to the story.
But bro, imagine if it was the General Grievous from the Clone Wars shorts.
Oh, the 2D?
Imagine if Obi-Wan had to fight the 2D General Grievous, like that high level, like that would have been insane.
Yeah, because the episode where they showed General Grievous the first time in the 2D, that was right before episode 3 dropped. That was like the year of. Yeah. And that's why like they gave them like the sketches of him. They was like the first people outside of Lucasfilm proper
that
like
knew what was going on.
Knew what it looked like. That's why they have him. He holds 3 lightsabers, but one in his foot, because no one knew he was going to have 4 arms. Yeah. Which, granted, like he doesn't have force power, so like people are like, well, how could he not? Like obviously, if you slow it down, he could have hit him at a lot of places. But have you ever dual wielded? It's so hard to be like, I got to use my left arm now. I forget. Obviously, he's been trained and stuff.
And he's like a robot, so it might be like automatic or something.
Yeah, well, he's not a robot. He's a
cyborg.
He's a cyborg.
Yeah, true.
So
my bad.
He still has his brain.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, him having to control 4 arms to fight is something
insane.
He's not doing that. He doesn't do that very often.
No.
He's normally living his life with 2 arms. So the fact that he like forgets and doesn't move him as enough doesn't bother me at all, because I'm like, he's just like not thinking about it, because I've tried to dual wield and I can't do it.
It's tough.
And then also him not being able to use the Force and Obi-Wan to be able to interpret his moves and like cut off his arms and stuff. I think it works for me.
Yeah. I think a Jedi is a good foil to Grievous, because like a trained Jedi, obviously Grievous has failed a lot of Jedi, hence his whole another addition to my collection.
He only had 1 in that.
I know, dude. It's Shaak Ti's.
It's Shaak Ti's in a deleted scene. He doesn't have that many.
I wish he would have had like 7.
In my mind,
that would have been
cool. He opened his left and he had like 3. I thought he already had 3.
I always thought he had more too. So seeing it again recently was like mind blowing. I was like, oh, what the heck? I wish they would have just made him more epic. I'm down with the whole coughing hunchback thing. I think it's unique. It's very unique, and I think it's slightly menacing. But like seeing the 2D version of Grievous and then going to episode 3 version of Grievous, it is a bummer. Because if I could have seen Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan fight a version of Grievous that was on the level of the 2D. And if you haven't seen it, just look up Clone Wars 2D shorts, General Grievous, you'll find it. That would have been so cool to see like a single Jedi take that on and win. Would have been really sweet. I just think Grievous didn't have much going for him. Also, this might be a hot take, but I liked as a child Grievous's guards better than Grievous.
They were pretty cool.
They were so cool.
Cut
They were
their head
like,
off, man. They can
dude,
keep going.
they could keep going. Like I used to have the Lego version of them, and I would pop the head off when I'd be like making up my own little stories. And I'd be like, oh, it's still fighting. I thought that was so cool, and they kind of just look cool, and they're good with their little bow staff.
And the sound design,
things.
Yeah, like it's great.
Sound design in these
it's
movies,
really
man.
well done. Good job, Ben Burt. Yeah,
Ben Burt.
Ben Burt. That's the
You should
name.
get him on the podcast. That'd be cool.
You know, I think he's a little big for me, but
Oh, okay.
because he did all of the movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think General Grievous did nothing. I think Obi-Wan, Ewan did a really good job for what he had.
Yes. Yeah, didn't have much. It was
so-
definitely Anakin's movie.
Yeah, I mean, like he just has this like side story. He doesn't really do. He's obviously not the main character, so
Yeah.
didn't have as much to do. He goes to Padme and he's like, dude, where is he? He's like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know where he went. He
Gotta
didn't
put
tell
a tracker on Anakin.
And he's like, he manipulates her slightly where he's just like, okay, now that she's concerned about him, he knows that she's going to go find him.
Mhm.
He stows away in her ship or whatever.
Which was diabolical of him, to be honest.
Well, okay, wait. But before we get to the scene on Mustafar where he like shows up,
Yeah.
he says, he's like, the line that like kind of hits kind of hard is like, Anakin's the father, isn't he?
Yes.
I'm so sorry.
Isn't that crazy? Like, oof.
Like he's so
Man.
sorry because he's going to go kill him.
Yeah.
And he knows he's like going to
Yeah,
go kill him.
Obi-Wan knows what's going on. He could probably sense it in the Force, I bet,
Mm-hmm.
that Anakin was slowly fading.
Yeah. So then they go to Mustafar
Oh.
and
Dare
It's
I
like-
say best Star
It's
Wars
so good.
moment?
It's
like
from that moment. I like Palpatine versus Yoda somewhat.
it's fun,
but like
It's fun.
there's so much of me just like I'll make it like pod race. Make it like the pod race where like you cut the music.
Oh,
It's just like you can have the music, but it's like
the music is very
uninterrupted lightsaber fight. Like they can do it.
Yes.
Ewan and Hayden were like so into lightsabers at the time.
dude.
They could do it. They could have like an uninterrupted
So
like just
good.
battle. But Padme's like scene with Anakin, I think, is sick.
Yes.
I think there Natalie Portman does a killer job.
Oh yeah.
I
She's a great actress.
She's very upset. She really wants him to live with him or whatever, live with her.
Mm-hmm.
And she asks like, "What about Obi-Wan? Can he help us?" Like, we don't need Obi-Wan. Like, why do you keep freaking bringing that guy up?
Yeah.
And then right then,
Is when he steps out, right?
yeah, he's just like he's up there with his arms like just on his
Yes.
hips.
It's such a good pose.
He's liar. You're with him. Like I don't like you're with him. Like in what
dude,
way
where
is he?
Anakin's mind going?
Well, it's
right.
A little gone. He's been hanging on a fire
Oh,
planet,
that's a
killing
good
everybody he
point.
can.
That's a good point.
Killed a lot of people.
Lots of
Cold
people.
blood.
Is that all in one day? Is that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's like all. Yeah, I think episode 3 is only like 3 days,
That's
3 or 4
crazy.
days.
That's really crazy.
So she was definitely very pregnant by the time she told him because
Yes.
she is showing at that point,
Yep.
like quite well.
Mm-hmm.
So he's pretty upset, and then I think it's part of like the Sithness of him, the dark side,
Sure.
where he just chokes her out
Which is so sad, man. That scene kills
know.
me every time.
because he's like, well, if you're gonna go against me at all, like screw you.
Yeah.
Let her go, Anakin. Let
Ugh.
her go. And then he does. And like the whole only a Sith deals in absolutes, which is a funny line
Mm-hmm.
when that's an absolute. But
Yeah.
it's
It's like, okay, Jedi, man.
so it a little funny on some of the things that they said.
Mm.
But dude, it's so good. Like the weight to it. Like obviously you know who's gonna win every single time.
Yes.
And like, but as a kid, it still was so good. Like, oh shoot, oh they're falling down. Are they gonna get off like the thing that's falling off the lava
Yes.
the lava waterfall?
Dude, and when they're floating above the lava, like, oh, it's so good.
And you can tell, like, dude, that's where Ewan pulls it out
Oh, 100%.
because that scene just like
So much
he's
emotion.
like, he's like trying so hard. I do think it's funny that he's like, well, hey, I'm up 8 feet. You're just done, dude. Like, what is he gonna give up? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if he's like baiting him. There's so many theories where it's like, well, Anakin knew that Obi-Wan did the same thing to
Darth Maul.
Darth
Yeah,
Maul,
I've
so
heard
I
that.
can do it. Or like Obi-Wan's like, well, this is perfect because I know how to defend it now because I know how not to defend it from Darth Maul.
Yeah.
I think there's so many interesting things, and I think obviously he kind of kind of baits him into it.
Yeah.
He's like, don't try it. Like, it's over, man.
I think Obi-Wan, the entire fight, wants Anakin to just say, you know what, I'm sorry. Forgive me. Let me come back. That's what I think in an ideal world for Obi-Wan, that's what would happen is Anakin would repent of his sins and his killings and like turn himself in a sense. How I've always interpreted the Eye of the High Ground Anakin scene is Obi-Wan kind of giving him that last chance, but Obi-Wan knowing that no matter what, he's safe. Because if I remember right, Obi-Wan's style is the most defensive, right?
So,
Yeah. So most of the fight on Mustafar, they're both kind of attacking each other. This is the first time where Obi-Wan goes on the defense. And it's where he succeeds. Obviously. And I think that's a little telling too, because he understands that Anakin's rage is kind of his downfall, but also a strong benefit of his. So he puts himself in a place of high defense where he knows he can win. And I think Anakin's ego gets the best of him. To me, dude, I always am like, man, why didn't Anakin just like try to force pull him or something, or like use the force right there?
We need more force, but
100%. Yeah. There's a lot of cool lightsaber fights in 3. There's not a ton of force. There's some good stuff with Yoda and Sidious, with throwing the platforms. You don't love it?
No, it's the worst. It's not the worst scene.
Yeah, there's not much force in 3. I guess there's force lightning too, but
yeah, which they could have used more of that too, I imagine. But I think the final scene of them, he jumps over him and him just like doing that, just pouring out his heart basically.
Yeah,
like, you're my brother, like you were the chosen one. Balance the force, not leaving in darkness.
Man.
And then just like, I hate you.
Just think of it. Yeah.
And then just like him he rolls down, catches on fire.
It's sad.
It's very sad. Like, from a perspective of like, that's your friend. You're a whole, like a long time friend. Like 9, whatever. Oh no, I guess he's like 20 something at that point.
Something like that.
But a long time.
Yeah.
10, 15 years or whatever it was.
Yep.
Someone that you've been around a lot. And there they are burning. But then him kind of almost like not having the heart to actually go kill him.
Yes. Always super strange to me. Like, to an extent, I understand. Like, maybe Obi-Wan thought he was going to die anyways. But, like, that's another one of those things. Yeah. Like, the whole Mace Windu thing where that you were saying earlier of just like, just poke him in the neck and kill him. It's like Obi-Wan could have just, like, force threw him into the lava or, like, went down there and stabbed him. Something like that.
Yeah, but he obviously can't.
Yes.
But
obviously
not. I don't even know how you would handle that scene, but I think it's great. I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
In my mind.
It's so good.
And then Obi-Wan goes off and takes Padme and
she dies just like how Anakin dreamed.
She does die, and then he takes the kid. But then I guess we can talk about Yoda versus Palpatine. It's just not it's better than Palpatine versus Mace Windu.
Yes.
But there is so many moments. It's kind of like awkward of him just like laughing, like wiping his old man mouth, and like then like him like throwing like 3 or 4, and then Yoda just like kind of throwing one. Yeah, like I feel like we should just had him just like yeeting him, just grabbing him and throwing him.
Yeah, the Force needed to be,
because he's like the best. Yoda's like the strongest and stuff. And he looked at that giant thing, but even though size doesn't matter, whatever.
Yes,
but like like him catching like the lightning, I think is sick.
In episode 2, or does that happen in 3 as well?
It happens in 3. Okay. They go right next to each other, and like he's like do, and then they.
Oh yes.
They like blow up.
I was thinking of the lightning ball from 2.
No, he also does that. He catches it, throws it, and then subsides it. I think it's fine. I think I don't know. It's hard to say because obviously they're supposed to be like the top 2 guys at the time. And I think it's interesting, like, I don't know, it just didn't feel, it was good, but it wasn't quite as extravagant as I was hoping for.
Here's how I wish it would have gone if I could recreate the movies. I wish that we would have had a scene of Anakin flying to Mustafar and like bawling his eyes out while he's flying and like being overcome with human emotion again, even though his eyes already are Sith looking, like the yellow. Yeah. And then while that's happening, we also get a scene of Obi-Wan like stowing away on the ship, Padme maybe crying, like emotions on all of those ends, cutting into the fight with Yoda and Palpatine. That way, when we get to Mustafar, then it's just the Mustafar fight. Yeah. Then when there's no cutting. And I also wish that Palpatine Yoda was a little bit longer and a little bit more like OP. They're wrecking the whole Senate room. Yeah. Like it would have been so good. Because it opens at such a climactic point for me personally when Yoda just walks in casually and takes out the Red Guards. I think that's so cool. That's like one of my favorite moments in the entire 9 episodes. And I'm just like, man, Yoda was always like this mythic character to me in my eyes. But to kind of watch him like struggle against Palpatine, even though Palpatine doesn't seeming to be doing that much, was kind of a bummer. So yeah.
My dad always said Yoda just smelled really bad and it knocked him out.
Yeah. Because doesn't he like fall back on his chair or something?
No. The two guards.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
It was like, oh, and they died. That's what my dad always told us.
He like throws one into a wall. It's so good.
It is really good. And then he goes, I must go into hiding, which is always sad.
Yeah.
But he has to. Obviously, it's like they're in the end game. It's almost like they made the movie like, oh shoot, everybody's got to get to where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
Yoda, obviously being a jerk to Anakin, obviously he has some great scenes where he just kills clones.
Yeah.
Like he's been waiting for it a little too much. Like he's really good at it.
He's very excited.
He's like the most vigorous he ever does it.
He's really good at fighting people that don't have lightsabers.
That's that's fair. And then we have the twins are born. Ooba.
Is that the robot or what is that?
Ooba.
Oh, the little
the
little mother
it's
robot.
a girl, Leia. And then Leia remembering her mother's eyes. Anyways,
somehow
it's fine.
Sure.
And then that's a fun fact where a lot of people think that like Luke was born on Tatooine and like he's born on it's an asteroid.
Yeah, aren't they born right there together?
Yeah, on an asteroid.
Yeah,
but like people don't really like that.
People thought that was Tatooine.
Well, people don't know. People just don't know, like trivia wise.
Oh, okay.
Like where was he born? Oh shoot, I don't.
I just always assumed in space,
like Coruscant, like no, but it's on an asteroid like base.
Interesting.
She dies. She's just so sad.
Which is sad. Yeah.
Dies of a broken heart, which happens.
It can.
IRL.
Yeah, it's a little like obviously it sounds a little cliche and like meh, but I think it works for the story.
Well, it happened like Carrie Fisher's mom.
That's crazy, man.
When Carrie Fisher passed away, her mom died when she found out.
Yeah.
And that happened to like there's been a couple other.
Just like the depression's so great.
Side story: the reason that they're not allowed to release people's names in like crashed airplanes is because the lady that sings "Lonely," Patsy Cline, she died on an airplane. No, it wasn't Patsy Cline. Buddy Holly's wife.
Oh, I have no clue.
So Buddy, she was also famous.
Okay.
They released that information on the TV, and her mom died.
Wow. Right, because she just found out and
she found out and just died.
Dude, it probably gave her a heart attack.
Yeah,
she's probably just freaking out.
Just died, and then Buddy
That's
Holly
so
also
sad.
died. But
oh my gosh.
Anyways, so you can die of a broken heart, and then you get the great one of the I love the scene of the comparing of Padme's funeral and then Anakin.
Yeah.
So you have like
parallel.
The like just like kind of like industrial, like it's Palpatine's like it's like the Imperial like medical ward or whatever. It's like really intense and like kind of crazy. Then you have like her funeral thing happening at the same time, and like I don't know, the back and forth is pretty cool.
Yeah, the parallels there are really good. And I always love to think about how Palpatine months in advance was like, okay, Anakin's about this high. He's about this tall. Obviously, he has some augments to him, but it's like, and we're gonna give him this mask, and he's gonna sound like this when he talks.
They didn't make him taller.
Yeah.
So he'd have the high ground.
Yeah, so they'd give him the high ground. But like, I think it's a fun little thing to think about of like Palpatine customing like the Darth Vader suit before he's Darth Vader.
Part of me almost wishes it was like Anakin, like no, that one, like swiping through like the heads and then the bodies.
I want this one.
And like young Anakin coming out, like, oh no, that'd be sick, dude. Look at that. Because like, I mean, I don't know. It's a crazy take to just randomly have a crazy outfit. Yeah. Obviously, they had to get him there. Yeah. And he wasn't always like this.
How did they throw Anakin? Do we think they threw Anakin into a Bacta tank to keep him alive? Or like,
well, because I mean, he's in Bacta later, right? In like.
Is he?
Well, maybe
I'm missing that.
No, in Kenobi.
Oh,
it's
yes,
like
right.
Vader in general.
Yes,
he's trying to heal because he has to get from the point to episode 6 and be slightly more in, and then that's why they had to bust his helmet open. And anyways, and
continuity.
I hate the point. Have you ever had burns?
Not like third degree, but I've gotten like small burns.
They just don't cover the guy up in the rain.
Wait, in the rain?
In Anakin, they're pulling him into the place to get him dressed up like Darth Vader. It's raining. And he has
I don't remember it raining.
He has open wounds.
It's raining on Mustafar?
No. When they on Coruscant.
They bring him back to Coruscant.
They bring him back to Coruscant.
Okay, sorry, I'm
they're
following
they're like carting him in, and it's just raining on his open burns.
Just to add more insult to injury, right?
He's just like dying.
That was a good Star Wars scream right there. But yeah, Anakin's pains, both physical and mental and emotional, they all just stink. Oof.
Another point that so during this time, a lot of people were hating George Lucas. Obviously, they hated him in 97 when he made the special editions and made like Han Solo dodge, and then episode 1 happened, and then everyone was mad, and then the end of 3, Darth Vader yelling no made a lot of people very mad.
What do you think about it?
I don't know. It's just Darth Vader. He just does that.
Yeah, it feels right to me.
It feels Star Wars. Doesn't he?
No.
I think it's great.
Like, sure, it might be campy in the eyes of some viewers, but like that's Anakin. Like that.
Was it not a Star Wars thing before that? Well, I mean, like Obi-Wan yells no in episode 1. There's some no's being yelled around.
Yeah.
I mean, like Luke yells no.
Yeah.
And then
Luke's no is crazy. He's like spitting, man. He's
does Vader in the original trilogy have a big no?
He has a moment where he yells like that, but I forget what he might be saying.
Well, they added that in one of the in the 2015 special edition, where he's like, no, and then he throws him. But that wasn't in the original. I thought there was like a big no, but there's not. He doesn't ever.
I don't think he does.
No, he doesn't.
But it feels right to me.
It feels right to me.
I think people got real nitpicky when the trilogy first came out, and I had the joy of being a child and not caring at all.
Correct.
It was great.
I didn't care for a long time.
No, same.
I didn't care until about 2020 when I started my meme page, when I realized everybody else cared.
And then you're like, whoa.
I realized I needed to care because people hated me for not caring.
Isn't that crazy?
It is. They're like, well, what do you mean?
I think people would stay in their own lanes, but I guess not.
No, not with Star Wars, man. Star Wars is very passionate.
I get it to an extent.
So, Star Wars Episode 3.
Yeah, let me see if I have any notes.
You still like it?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Even after talking about it today?
No, I feel like I don't even know how long we've been talking. I could keep talking. So I'll just drop this line real quick, and we can just laugh about it, and then I'll move on to the next one. But 8 plus 60? 8 plus 60? It's like, okay, Obi-Wan, what does that mean?
8 plus 60, we're in the atmosphere.
Yeah. So to any viewers out there, any listeners, what does 8 plus 60 mean to you?
Obi-Wan saying 8 plus 60 is the most out of random. Yeah. Is there a deleted scene I don't know about where he like the line before that?
Makes sense.
Does he not have that?
Because it's for context, it's when Grievous's ship is crashing down into Coruscant. Mm-hmm. They're all at the console trying to fly it, and Obi-Wan just screams 8 plus 60. It's very random.
So do you think that your love of Episode 3 is blinded by nostalgia at all?
100%.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie about that one. I think for me, the sequels, or no, sorry. The original trilogy is less nostalgic for me than the prequels. Mm-hmm. Prequels are my favorite personally because those were the ones I watched so much, and it's like it was hot at the time. Like I don't know if you guys remember, but like Star Wars Lego sets were booming when I was a kid, like early 2000s, like they were everywhere. And then I remember seeing like Anakin's face on a ton of merch, and like it was just everywhere. So I think being surrounded so much as a kid like made me more connected to Hayden Christensen as Anakin and Ewan McGregor as Obi-Wan versus like Mark Hamill as Luke, and I almost said Han Solo as Harrison Ford, and Harrison Ford as Han Solo. I love the original trilogy, don't get me wrong, but I'm much more, not judgmental, but I'm much more, I can just like watch the prequels over and over and just not care.
Top 3 Star Wars movies.
Star Wars movies. Oh my God.
Let's leave like Rogue One and Solo out.
Okay.
Just
the 9?
Just Skywalker Saga, the 9.
Okay. So
top 3.
Top 3. Okay, here we go. Number 3 is going to be such a hot take. Guys, I'm so sorry. Number 3 for me is Phantom Menace.
Nice. Let's go.
Number 3 for me is Phantom Menace. And there's so many reasons.
Hey, we love Phantom Menace here.
Yeah. No, I'm glad. Because Phantom Menace for me it does a lot of stuff that I feel like no other movie in Star Wars could do. It's just incredibly political and incredibly like explorative in the world of Star Wars. And then after that, I would have to say Episode 5 is number 2 for me.
Yep, that's
it's fantastic. I love it a lot. I don't have many issues with that movie at all. Like even when I look at it critically, I think it's pretty perfect. And then due to nostalgia, and due to just how good it is. Episode 3 is my number one.
There you go. Good.
It's my number one.
Good.
It's the music. Like that's something too. I think I have it here. I have this written here in my notes. The score for this movie for episode 3 is the best in the series, in my opinion. Because like you have episode 1, Duel of the Fates, legendary, but the rest of the soundtrack for episode 1 isn't amazing. Episode 4, 5, and 6 is very nostalgic and like it's good, and there's a lot of good themes.
5 is really good.
Yeah, 5 is very good. There's a lot of good themes, but like man, episode 3 just has some great action soundtracks and some really good like emotional moment soundtracks. Sound effects wise, it's like the best in the series. Like the one that I keep coming back to is in the opening sequence when the clones are shooting like those cannons out of their ship. Yes. Oh my God. It sounds so much like those old guns where the bullets fly out. I don't know the name, but it's just so good. What's his name that does the sound effects?
Ben Burt,
the GOAT for real. Yeah.
Yes.
Sound effects in the trilogies are amazing.
So, since it is your favorite, what's your least favorite scene or moment in Revenge of the Sith?
Oh, okay.
On the spot, but I can tell you mine. Mine is Palpatine going and then stabbing. That's it.
It feels to me that scene feels very Palpatine for that movie because Palpatine and Sidious, like the characters together, are just kind of campy in that movie, and it kind of fits for me. Oh shoot, man! I think my least favorite scene in episode 3. This is it. This is it. It's two scenes kind of meshed together, but Grievous is watching Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Palpatine running through the hallway, and he says, "Turn on the ray shields."
Ray shields, yeah.
He goes, "Activate the ray shields," and then there's like 2 seconds of them like running in the hallway, and then the ray shields come on, and they're like, "Oh no, the ray shields," and I'm like, it just feels weird because like I have so many issues with the ray shields because it's like, are the ray shields just in that one section? Like they had to catch them right when they ran through that one little pocket, or is it just anywhere on the ship? Like,
so
where are the ray shields?
There is a deleted scene.
Oh, really?
So when they first run in without Palpatine, they're running. They get caught by ray shields.
Both of them?
They get caught.
I swear I know.
And then I'm pretty sure they have like a light. They try to hit it, and the lightsaber can't go through it.
Okay.
And then and then Shakti gets killed in front of them.
Oh, when they can't.
And then they do like should we do this? Or should we do this? They do like these hand signals. Like no, that's too extreme.
Oh, I remember that. Yes.
And then they cut a hole. They fall down. So when they get caught, they're like, we're smarter than
ray
this
shields
because
again.
like they just had it happen.
Yes.
So in their mind, what originally was when they were filming is like this is the second time they got caught.
Yeah.
Well, yes. Why is it like randomly? Which ray shield? Just activate them.
Yeah.
Like which ray shield are you talking about?
I think that's probably my biggest little gripe. It's just a picky moment for me.
For sure.
I do love that the droidicas come right in. I love that the super battle droids kick R2D2. I think that's funny. But for that to be the way that they get caught, I'm just like meh. Don't love it.
Yep.
Here's one quote that I heard recently about a different series, a different show entirely, called Arcane. That's a whole other can of worms.
Yeah.
But different show entirely. That this quote was said for this show on like TikTok or something. I heard it. I was like, man, this fits episode 3 super well. I'm just gonna read it real quick and then we can close out. Here it is. Quote: "A hero will sacrifice one close to them in order to save the world. A villain will sacrifice the world in order to save one close to them." I think that encapsulates Anakin's story so well.
That does.
It's like a perfect quote for him. Like for not like as Darth Vader, but like as Anakin the Jedi. It's just it fits so well. So yeah. Love episode 3. I hope you guys love episode 3. If you don't, let us know why. We need good reasons.
This is true. So with that, thank you for joining the podcast today. Thank you for experiencing Me Moby's Galaxy, our first official episode.
Let's go.
If you have any questions or have anything we could do better, message me on Instagram at obi1_memoby or email me at obi1.memoby@gmail.com. If you want to be on a future episode, ask a question. Like on this episode, I had some hot takes. I didn't say who it was. I forgot to get
That's okay.
the ats of everybody. But if you have any questions or things you want to say about any future movies, we're going to be talking about all of the Star Wars theatrically released movies and then probably the shows as well. But thank you so much for joining us. Oh no, I got to do my outro song.
Oh, it's over here.
Oh no.
He's moving across the room.
Which one is it?
It's the first time. Here we go.
May the Force be with you.